So it is 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Good evening, councillors, staff, the press, and online viewers. We begin tonight's meeting with the acknowledgement that the land on which we are gathered is in the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, specifically Mississauga. We would also like to acknowledge the North Channel Métis Council. We say miigwech to thank Indigenous people for taking care of this land from time immemorial. We are called to treat this sacred land, its plants, animals, stories, and its peoples with honor and respect. We commit to the shared goal of reconciliation. And on Friday, September 30th, Canada recognized the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. This day reminds us of the legacy of the Canadian Residential School Program. The impact of this day will remain with us in the days and months moving forward. Prior to beginning this evening's agenda, I would ask that each councillor who is present via this video conferencing to answer the roll call when I call your name. Deputy Mayor Summers.
Present.
Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar.
Present.
Councillor Jim Dunbar.
Present.
Councillor Stephen Wells.
Present.
Councillor Roy sends his regrets. Councillor Jennifer Posterero.
Present.
Thank you. This past weekend, family and friends celebrated the life of Lila Sear. Lila was a familiar face to all of us, having served a long political career as councillor from 1982 to 2010. Her passion for politics was in her blood as she was following the footsteps of her father, Adolphe Taran, who was mayor in 1920-21. Lila's true impact on the community was her boundless energy for volunteering for committees and boards where she was not afraid to get her hands dirty to get the job done. Her association with any event was a guarantee of its success. The flags at the town hall flew at half-mast on October 1st, the day of Lila's funeral, as a tribute to this wonderful woman and the life she served. Blind River will be voting one of 2 days, or 2 ways, either online or by telephone for the 2 school board elections, the Algoma District School Board and the English Separate School Board. Voting will begin at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, October 11th, and will be open until the close of poll on Monday, October 24th, 2022 at 8 p.m. Voting assistance will be provided at the town hall during regular office hours from October 11th to October 21st, or between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. on October 24th, or until the polls close at 8 p.m. on the 24th. Electors have been receiving their voter information letters in the mail. If you have any questions, please call the town hall at 356-2251, and that's area code 705. Now, turning to tonight's agenda, I have a motion from Councillor Posterero, seconded by Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar. Be it resolved that council approve the agenda as presented. All in favor with this option? And that's carried. Thank you. And are there any conflicts of interest as it relates to tonight's agenda? Seeing no hands going up and receiving no conflicts, I will say no. I have a motion next from Councillor Wells, seconded by Deputy Mayor Summers. Be it resolved that council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of September 19th and the minutes of the public meeting of September 19th as presented. All in favor with this option? And that is carried. And is there any business arising from those meeting minutes which council wishes to talk about? Seeing none, we have no public presentations tonight. So moving on to the introduction and consideration of administrative reports. Does council have any questions on that long list of administrative successes and changes as they are shown? It is going well, that's for sure. And it's certainly going well seeing the building next door being carted away. On to service delivery review. There's no report at this time. So we're moving into presentation of the committee reports, and corporate services met on September 26th, 2022. And we have a motion coming forward on the electronic monitoring of employees at work policy. This is moved by Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Dunbar. Be it resolved that that Corporate Services Committee recommend that council adopt the electronic monitoring of employees at work policy as presented. Questions, comments? Councillor Pastorero.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I don't know if it was an oversight, but I know that under this section that it talked about the means that iPads weren't included, and I assumed that iPads would also be monitored as it's an electronic form that we electronic device that we use.
I'll turn to Ms. Scott for response.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. Councillor Pastorell, that will be noted and corrected before passed.
Thank you for that, Councillor Pastorero. So with that amendment, all in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. And Community Services met on September 28th, 2022. And we have a motion on the floor moved by Councillor Jim Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Pastorero. Be it resolved that council authorize administration to create a comprehensive and solutions-focused summary that benefits the town of Blind River during future emergencies, assists vulnerable population in maintaining autonomy, as well as addresses one component of the rural Northern Ontario healthcare service gaps as recommended by the Community Services Committee. Questions, comments? Councillor Jim Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if I might have Ms. Bittner weigh in on just a small explanation to this here resolution, particularly with the first sentence.
Absolutely. Oh, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Dunbar and well to the group as a whole. Thank you. The purpose of this exercise is to engage our service providers. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit opportunities in the area. It's no secret that Northern Ontario is somewhat shortchanged for services and for residents to be able to access healthcare. So the purpose of this exercise that was brought forward through some local like-minded paramedics is to have the town of Blind River work with ADSAB, work with boots on the ground professionals, and come up with a proposal that would assist in changing the kilometers required to access a travel grant. So right now, as it is 100 kilometers for a patient to be able to get that travel grant approved, that doesn't help a lot of folks that need to travel between Blind River and Elliott Lake, for example. So if we could create a rock solid case to show that this is doable and would make sense for Algoma residents, once council's on board with the proposal, we'd like to reach out to our neighboring municipalities, gain strength in numbers, and then forward this on to the professionals that are listed within the report. So this is very, very preliminary. And we're excited that Community Services saw the merit. So we're hoping to have council support to continue this exercise with the professionals in our area.
Thank you. Councillor Pastorero.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. As Karen just said, the Community Services Committee, when we discussed this, it's so important that we either seek out or lobby for additional funding or new volunteer opportunities because there is large gaps in the healthcare and like was discussed, that 100-kilometer barrier to access funding is a real deterrent to seeking healthcare, and it can have some pretty disastrous effects if they don't have access. So yeah, an amazing initiative. Thank you for taking it on.
Yes, it is for sure. Seeing no other hands going up, I'll call for a vote. All in favor with this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. And in relationship to the accessible beach map, I have a motion from Councillor Jim Dunbar, seconded by Deputy Mayor Summers. Whereas council recognizes goals of its corporate strategic plan and economic development strategy and that accessibility, community engagement, and a sense of place are key drivers, and that wheelchair-friendly beach mats eliminate an environmental barrier at Sellers Park. Therefore, be it resolved that council authorizes the creation of a dedicated reserve account titled Sellers Beach Mat Project as recommended by the Community Services Committee. Questions, comments? Councillor Jim Dunbar, followed by Councillor Pastorero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, I know there's a lot of information that has been floating around with the social media pertaining to this. I'm just wondering if Ms. Bittner just might elaborate on this year reserve that we're doing for them.
Certainly through you, Madam Mayor, to council. When this report was first generated, of course, the fundraising group did not want to be mentioned, but we've seen the flood of beautiful social media images coming out of the birch tree. So this is a wonderful initiative that has been spearheaded by Carolyn. And where Carolyn is seeking assistance is she would like to do this for the community, spearhead the fundraising and be the person to make this happen. However, would like to hand it over in its entirety to the municipality. So part of us working with Carolyn, as she is not a registered charity as a person or a business, would be then to keep those funds secure until the $7,500 mark is reached. And then we can make that purchase and celebrate with the birch tree for bringing this forward.
Thank you. And Councillor Pastorero.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. My question is one of optimism. I know this community rallies behind each other, and I foresee that we're going to skyrocket right over that 7,500 number. So with it being titled the Sellers Beach Mat Project, if we surpass that goal of $7,500, would we be able to then put those funds towards other accessibility projects?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Pastorero. At that time, Carolyn could make the decision if she would like to add an extra length of mat under that same title. What it could do is extend the mat further down the beach, or perhaps add another section or even a wider version. So there's a lot of different ways we can tweak the order. I'll leave that up to her. And perhaps then the remaining funds, we can come back to council and say we'd like to either transfer them with Carolyn's permission or expand on the project.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I remember several years ago when the Accessibility Committee was meeting that we did discuss beach mats as one of the items that we'd like to obtain for the town. I'm wondering if there's any provincial funding available to match private donations to this fund.
Through you, Mayor Hagman, to Councillor Wells, I can certainly research those opportunities and bring it back to the full council and committee if you'd like.
Sounds like that's a yes. Thank you, Ms. Bittner, for all your information. And seeing no other hands going up, I would call a vote on this motion. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And from the Director of Facilities and Community Services, read the Santa Claus Parade. I have a motion from Councillor Pastorero, seconded by Councillor Wells. Whereas Blind River's vision states, driven by extraordinary volunteers and supported by its community leaders, Blind River is a vibrant and prosperous town that has established itself as a year-round destination, an ideal community in which to live and do business. Therefore, be it resolved that Council authorize the Blind River Skating Club to host the 2022 Santa Claus Parade on November 12th, 2022, and that Blind River Fire Services be approved to participate in the event, and that barricades be supplied at no charge to the organizers as recommended by the Community Services Committee. And I see no questions being asked on this. I see no hands going up, so we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor? And that is carried. And I get to dust off a certain outfit to wear in that parade. So quite excited about that opportunity. Thank you. We have no unfinished business, so moving on to correspondence requiring action. FedNor amendment for the contribution agreement, project 513861. And I have a motion from Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar, seconded by Deputy Mayor Summers. Be it resolved that council authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to sign the amended agreement with FedNor for the downtown waterfront enhancement project. Questions, comments? Seeing none, Councillor Posteraro?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if it's appropriate to single her out, but I just wanted to thank Karen Bittner for all of her hard work on achieving that extra funding just to make our community more beautiful. So thank you very much.
And I was just about to say the exact same thing, and I see Councillor Jim Dunbar has his hand up, so go ahead, Councillor Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just more of a comment. I'm happy to see that the signage for the FedNor for the project, waterfront project, has been posted up on the west side of the river for anyone who wants to read it. So it's kudos again to the facility director for establishing that for us.
That's right, it's very good, for sure. So, calling for a vote once again, all in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And I never have to call for an alternative vote because we have a very agreeable council. Moving on to September 27th, Stewart, Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act. I have a motion from Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Posteraro. Whereas Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act has been reintroduced as Bill 5, and whereas Bill 5 would require a code of conduct for municipal councillors and members of local boards to comply with workplace violence and harassment policies, and create an integrity commissioner and judicial process to remove them from office for organized acts of sexual, emotional, and psychological misconduct. And whereas council is disappointed that passing this legislation was not prioritized, therefore precluding its application to help hold current municipally elected representatives across this province accountable to violence and harassment in the workplace policies, as well as ensuring an appropriate accountability structure for newly elected councils across the province. Therefore, be it resolved that council support Bill 5, Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to local MPPs, Premier Doug Ford, and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and MPP Stephen Blais. Comments? Questions? Councillor Stephen Wells, followed by Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar.
So thank you, Mayor Hagman. I'm not opposed to this motion and the support for Bill 5, but I would like to note that Blind River, our council, we already have a strong code of conduct, and we already have an integrity commissioner, which we consult, the person we consult on occasion. So I'm not exactly sure this will not have any impact on our town because we've already taken these measures. Am I correct?
You are correct. And I will let Ms. Scott give a verification.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. Just to confirm, so this is slightly different than the integrity commissioner and the code of conduct that we currently have in place. And if you are familiar with the headlines of the city of Ottawa and the things that are happening with their council there are some members of council that have been charged criminally and are still allowed to hold their seat. This is more about holding those councillors responsible for criminal allegations or charges of not holding their seat, and giving more authority to such bodies as the integrity commissioner. So it's a little bit deeper than that. I don't have all of the definitions and all of the background on this report. I believe it is available online, but it's more to do with more serious charges against members of council. not necessarily something that this council would be looking at, but I think it's more for some of the larger centers that are are seeing some pretty serious allegations with council staff relations.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar.
That answers my question as well. I as well am not against this motion. I just thought that our code of conduct and our policies that we have in place would have covered this, but it seems like it's a little more than, and that's not clear in this motion. To me, it's not clear in the motion that that's what it's aimed at. So you answered my question, Katie. That was, thank you.
Councillor Pastorero, followed by Councillor Wells, followed by Councillor Dunbar.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Like my fellow colleagues here, is originally you're taken aback because it seems common sense, right? That there is a code of conduct and that humans should be kind to each other. But when we were at EMO, it was made clear that there is a need for this very explicit codified process to protect staff and counselors if there is a counselor that is abusing these type of situations where there's loopholes and they could serve and yeah, hearing some of the horror stories at EMO is yeah, I would support this, and we get along all just fine, but there's places where they're not so lucky. So yeah, I would support that for that reason.
Councillor Wells, then Councillor Jim Dunbar.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hagman. I only thought, I guess, is that, and I'm not sure whether our clerk can answer this question. I haven't read Bill 5 in all of its detail, but I'm just wondering if this would affect a member of council if there is just an allegation directed against a member. Because as we know, sometimes people are accused falsely. And I wouldn't want to see somebody censured just because of a false allegation, because someone is simply trying to achieve political gain or for whatever reason there may be. If a member of council is accused and convicted, I think that would be a different thing entirely. But we had to be careful. There's a fine line between just a frivolous allegation and an actual event taking place.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council. I have not read over this proposed bill. I am going on what we did receive at AMO. And my understanding from that is that this would be charges laid and convicted, not simply alleged against a council member. Councillor
Jim Dunbar.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. Yeah, I'm just curious, Katie, who is the Samantha Doer that this is from?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm unsure exactly what her role is within the government, but this was something that we received, much like other motions that we receive as requested to be placed on council agenda.
And seeing no other questions, I'll call for a vote now. All in favor with this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. And we have one last piece of correspondence requiring action, and this is from Kiera Mary, road closure request. We have a motion on the table from Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Jim Dunbar. Whereas public interest in a fall festival has exceeded the capacity for Woodward Avenue on October 15th, and whereas a request for a subsequent road closure to accommodate the overflow of vendor participants has been received, therefore be it resolved that council approve the road closure on Fullerton Street to the driveway for 18 Fullerton on October 15th for vendors to set up for the fall festival, and that council authorize the use of municipal road barricades. Comments, questions? Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar.
It's just a comment, but this is wonderful to hear that it's growing to that point. I love this. This is great.
Great, thank you for that. And seeing no other hands going up, I will call for a vote. All in favor with this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. And I provided the ADSAB board meetings from July 28th. Was no August meeting, and the Algoma Public Health Board meeting minutes from June 22nd, 2022. There were no summer meetings, so this was the first opportunity I had to bring those to council's attention. We have no notices of motion or introduction, so we will move on. I have a motion from Councillor Posterero, seconded by Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar. Be it resolved that council authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to sign bylaw 22-51, being a bylaw of the corporation of the town of Blind River to adopt the minutes of the meeting of October 3rd, 2022 was passed in open council this third day of October, 2022. All in favor with this motion? And that is carried. And last but not least, I have a motion from Councillor Jim Dunbar, seconded by Deputy Mayor Summers. Be it resolved that council adjourn at 7:25 p.m.
Wow.
All in favor with this motion? And that is carried. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon.
Night.
Bye-bye.